Hey guys, what's up everyone? Welcome back to another video. In this video we are going to tackle the second part of the Astro LinkTree clone video or tutorial that we have covered in the last video. And in this part we are going to integrate Netlify CMS to be able to add, edit or delete new links using Netlify CMS. I would also like to know from you guys if you prefer to have everything inside of one article and video, so the whole tutorial, which will be much longer, to be inside of one article and one video, or if you want to keep splitting those videos and tutorial series in multiple parts. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. What do you prefer? I'm not sure what is better, if we just run a very long video that will cover everything from start to finish, because I think like you guys want to have a finished product at the end of the video, and a lot of you guys watch the video as soon as it comes out, and then you have to wait a week or so until the next video gets released for finishing your project. So I was thinking, what do you guys prefer? Is it fine for you to do a 1+ hour video in one go, or do you prefer to separate it in multiple parts? Let me know in the comments below, and in the next videos I will take that into consideration. With that out of the way guys, make sure to subscribe to the channel if you want to help me out and want to enable me to continue providing videos to you guys. And let's get started with coding. And as you guys know, at every start of a video I introduce you to the written piece of content that goes along with our videos, because we always provide a written piece of content so that you can copy and paste code, which makes it much easier for you guys to follow along. So either you click in the link in the video description below or in the upper right corner of your screen right now, or you just go to cosec.com if you are curious about learning other things as well. You can go to Learn, Web Development and Astro to find all the Astro tutorials we have created so far. In this case we are looking at the Astro LinkTree clone part 2, Netlify CMS integration. And if you open up this article, you can see that there's all of the code that we're going to use throughout this video. And I'm going to copy and paste a lot of this code myself, because I want to save us some time. I don't want to type everything out here and waste your time and my time, because it's just not necessary. I will type out and write out things that are important to explain, like probably parts of this. But sometimes I just copy and paste code. What I want to say with this is, I will go through this tutorial exactly as it is in the video, so I will follow through each and every step from top to bottom, so that you guys are able to follow along with ease. Just one more quick thing before we get started. Of course, the code is available on GitHub for this tutorial series, and if you click on this link, you can see that there are two parts. So if you wanna clone the code from last week's tutorial, that's where we're going to start this tutorial today, you have to check out the part 1 branch of this repository here. If you want to clone the finished tutorial where we will arrive at the end of this video, you have to make sure to check out part 2 of this tutorial, or of this repository. So if you go ahead and clone part 2, that's the finished project. So I just wanted to get that out of the way, and then we can go ahead and start coding. Alright, so we are going to use Netlify CMS. I highly encourage you guys to check out the Netlify CMS documentation if you want to adjust anything further down the line when we are finished with this tutorial. But just so that you know, Netlify CMS isn't exactly designed for what we are going to build with it. Netlify CMS is mostly used on blogs, which we will cover in a later tutorial series where we're going to build a blog with Netlify CMS. But we can, however, leverage its functionality for our use case. Netlify CMS creates markdown files in our Astro project. These markdown files are usually used to write the content for blog posts, as you can see here. So this is what you want, or what you would use Netlify CMS for. But we can also create markdown files with only front matter code, and you will see what front matter code is in a second, or if you're familiar with Astro you already know that. But this front matter code will contain, in our case, our link title, our link description and the link URL, and by utilizing the astro.glob object we are able to pull these values into our index.astro file and use them to create dynamic links. Maybe sounds a bit complicated, but it will make a lot more sense in a second when we implement it. If you have followed the last tutorial, you already uploaded your repository to GitHub, and that's the integration we are going to use later on. But for this to work, you need to also install the Astro Netlify CMS integration. And to do that, make sure you are inside of your project folder and then type npm astro-netlify-cms. Now I already installed that. Just follow through with this installation and press enter on every prompt that comes up, which will automatically generate some configuration files for us. And once we have that finished, we open up VS Code and open up our project in VS Code. And again, this is exactly where we left off in the last video. So this is basically the part that we have coded in the last tutorial. And as you can see, the links are still like dynamically, in quotation marks, dynamically created here. So we have some props, some Astro props that we used in our card components as well as in our featured link components, and we are able to modify these inside of our index.astro file by just manually basically typing in another link or duplicating a link and creating another link. Now we're going to change this up a little bit, of course, to be able to use Netlify CMS. So the first thing we are going to do is we need to add some code to our Astro config MJS file. This code is required that Netlify CMS will work. So this is the required code that we have to use. So let's open up our astroconfig.mjs file. And as you can see, there is not much in there, but Netlify is in there now because we integrated it. And now we just need to modify this config so that we tell Netlify exactly what we are going to use on the backend. The first thing we need to do in here is we need to import Netlify CMS, and I like to do it on top. So we do Netlify CMS from Astro Netlify CMS. Now we have it imported, and now we need to define the config of this Netlify CMS object. And the way we do that is I'm going to just copy and paste the code from the website, which I highly recommend you guys do as well. Let me just grab the code here because it would take us too long to type that all out, but I will go through and explain it to you. So it's important that you add this new object behind the Tailwind object that we have already set in this array here. So I'm going to paste it in, and you need to make sure to make a comma behind this. And that's the way it looks then. So we are going to go through all of those values, and this will make a lot more sense when we actually look at the CMS and the markdown files that are created. Now there are a bunch of very important things to keep in mind when working with this. One of the most important things that you have to pay attention to is the config object here. Now the config object sets the backend for our CMS. In here we need to define how we are going to basically deploy our app and how it should create new files and push them to GitHub through the Git gateway. We need to define that by the name variable, and we're setting it, or the name value, and setting it to Git gateway. And then there is a very important part here, which is the branch. Now this is copied from the article, which is using part 2. In this case, you want to use the branch that you are using currently in your project. So here I'm on the master branch, as you can see. So I need to set it to use the master branch. You can, as you can suggest, probably also use different branch names, like whatever you want, so you can work with whatever branch you want, but in this case let's use the master branch as we have it set up here. Now we come to the collections array, and the collections array basically defines in the first part here how our markdown files will be created by the CMS. Now we give it a label, we give it a name, and the label is usually only referring to what you will see in the CMS end of things, and the name usually is referred to how it will be created as a file name and as the front matter code. Again, makes more sense in a second when I show you how the created file looks like. We are also going to define a slug. This is optional, but I like to do this because if we do not define a slug, the markdown or the names of the markdown files that will be created through the CMS are very cryptic. They include a lot of garbage, and I want my link titles or the file titles of the links that we are going to create to be readable, and I want them to include the link title so we exactly know which kind of link we are working with later on. Then we also need to define a folder where those markdown files will be created. In this case, it's the src pages links folder, which we need to create in a second. And then we also need to set those two values to true, which allows us to create new files and also delete markdown files, or in our case, links. And then we get to the fields array, and the fields array defines what you will see in the backend or in the CMS. So there will be a field called link title that you need to fill out. Here is the name of the corresponding front matter code that will be created after we create a new link. And we also need to define what kind of type of thing that is. So if it's a string or a number or whatever. In our case, it's a string. And the same is with the link description and the link URL. So we basically have three separate fields that we can work with. Another important part for this to work, which we already set up in the last part of the tutorial, is that you set the output to server. This tells Netlify to use server-side rendering, which is required for Netlify CMS. Okay, we get back to that file in a second so that you guys can better understand how it actually works. Just a side note here, this is very basic, so there are a bunch of more things that you can define in here when it comes to label and all those values, but I highly recommend you guys checking out the Netlify CMS documentation where this is explained in depth. Now we need to go ahead and create our links folder, so we are going to create it inside of the pages folder. We create a new folder called links. Next up, we need to modify our index.astro file, but actually let's run our app now and look how it looks like at this moment. We're going to open that up. And currently it looks like this. So if we open the index.astro file here, that's where we left off in the last tutorial. So you can see that all of the links here are kind of dynamically created, but if we change it here, we have to do a manual change that it will be changed. Now we're going to change that so that we use Netlify CMS to dynamically create these links for us. For that, the first thing we need to do up here on top is we need to actually tell Astro where, or Netlify CMS rather, where our links or where our markdown files will be located. So we create a variable called links, and we fetch the data from the astro.glob object, and inside of this object we need to define the path to our links. So it's just ./links/ and then we do a star for every file and a .md. Now this is the shortcut for markdown, and this is the kind of file that Netlify CMS will create for us. Now it's already complaining because it doesn't find anything in there, but we're going to fix that in just a second. Now scroll down until you find the links layout, and now we want to delete everything inside of the links layout and delete that. Now we are going to use the JavaScript map function to dynamically render those links for us. I'm just going to copy and paste the code here, and that's how it's look like. So we are mapping over this links variable that we created here, which will search the links folder for all kind of markdown files in there. And then we use an arrow function to return our link card with the following props. It's link title, link description, link URL, and that refers to the link inside of the front matter of the file that we are going to create in a second, where it's using link title, link description, and link URL. Now that all makes a lot more sense in just a second. Now we are going to go ahead and we create a link, just a temporary link, so that it stops to complain here, and you can actually see how that looks like. If there is nothing inside of the links folder, we cannot access Netlify CMS to dynamically create links, because it's the requirement that the app is working for Netlify CMS to work. Now let's create a new file inside of the links folder, and we just call that link -1.md. You can call it whatever you want actually. And you can already see something is showing up here. It's something completely empty is showing up here, in fact. We're going to fix that in a second. So we need to create our front matter fences in here, and then we are going to define what should be inside of those values. And as you can see, let's try to make that in a way that makes a little bit more sense. So you can see, let me make that smaller. Okay, so you can see that this refers to link title, so front matter.link title. The link here is our file, and the front matter is everything between those fences, the front matter fences. And the link title is what we are going to set right now. So we say link title, and I hope that makes sense to you guys, link 1. And if we do that, it shows up right here, okay? So next we do link description. We put that to link 1 description, whatever. And then we do link URL, and we set that to something, but you have to make sure it's actually URL with capital letters here. And if we hover, you can see that on the lower left corner of the browser, Google shows up. So we just dynamically created this link through our markdown file. I hope this makes sense now, because this value refers to this value refers to this, and this value refers to this. So I hope kind of makes sense now. Let's move on and actually start to use Netlify CMS to create those links for us. All right, so while you are in your local dev environment and making sure you are running npm run dev, so your app is running, you can do /admin, and you will automatically be taken into the Netlify CMS. Now, for this to work on the live side, we need to still adjust some settings on Netlify in a second. But for now, let's look at that. Let's look at how the Netlify CMS actually looks like. So it's a very simple interface here. There is the link 1 we have created here. And if you open that up, we can see that all of our values are exactly referring to these values inside of our front matter of the link1.md file. I'll explain it in more detail to you in a second. But for now, let's go ahead and create a new link and see what happens. So if we create a new link here, and let's say we call that Twitter, it's the link title, and we do follow us on Twitter, something like that, and the URL, that's https twitter.com @Stefan Rose. If you don't follow me there, I highly recommend you do. I always post new videos and new articles in there. And if you then click on publish, we can choose to publish and create new, publish and duplicate, or publish now. Usually you use publish now. And if you click on that, this is something that occurs very often in Netlify CMS. I don't know why that happens. But if that happens, just click on reload in that case. And then it brings you back to creating another link here. But that's not important for now. Go back on the main menu here, and you can see this Twitter link is in fact showing up. Now, if we click in there, we can see that this is exactly looking like our link 1 that we created earlier. It has the exact same values. And if we open our page now, go on localhost 3000, we can see that this link is in fact showing up, and it also has the URL attached to it. So if you click on it, we should end up on Twitter. Okay, there we go. So this is working. Now we can open up the content manager again, and just for demonstration purposes, you can click in here, and we're going to delete this temporary link. And I want you to pay attention to the left side here into the links folder where this link 1 is still present. And if we click on delete entry, we click on OK, then this link disappears out of our links folder. So you can see that this backend, or the Netlify CMS backend, is referring to the files inside of our links folder. Let's create another link for good measure. Let's say YouTube. Follow us on YouTube. HTTPS youtube.com /@Stefan Rose. Publish now. And sometimes, yeah, this can be a bit annoying. Just click on cancel, whatever, and go back, and then you see the YouTube link is showing up here, and the YouTube link is also showing up here. Okay, now that we know how that works, let's break it down a little bit further, because I had a hard time wrapping my head around this when I just started out using it. It can get a bit complicated if you use it for the first time, so I want to break it down for you guys in more depth, how that actually works now with all of our configuration files. So I'm gonna try to make it as simple as possible. Let's open up our Astro config mjs file and our index.astro file, and let's put that next to each other. Now, actually, let's start with something else. Let's start with opening up the Twitter MD file here and putting it next to index.js. Now you can see that this link title refers to the link.frontmatter.link title value in here, as well as the link description and the link URL, which we are setting for props for our link card. So this gets pulled out of the twitter.md file. I think this should be pretty easy to understand. Let's look at the Astro config.mjs file now and pull that up next to this one. And make this a little smaller here so we can see something. Okay, so what happens here is these labels are basically referring to our link name. So the markdown file's name that are created, it's twitter.md, and this is why we set this extra slug. Otherwise it would be some cryptic value, or not cryptic, but a very long value with some dates in there, with the name, with the description, everything would be in the file name. And we don't want that. We want to have clear file names. That's why we use the link title as the slug, which is referring to this. As for the labels are referring to the Netlify CMS and what kind of things will be created after we create a new link. So if you click on new link here, we can see that the first label is link title. This is our link title. And if we create this link title the name is the value of the link title, and this directly refers to this value inside of the front matter, inside of the markdown file that will be created once we hit publish. The same goes for link description and link URL. So the labels are referring to the names of the fields inside of Netlify CMS, while the names are referring to the values that are actually created in the markdown files once we hit publish. I really hope that makes sense. I think I cannot break it down even further for you, but I think this should make sense. Now also note that the beauty of this is actually that you can go ahead and you can delete the link in here inside of your links folder. You can also create links here and they will show up here, but if you delete it, it will also automatically be deleted in here. And of course on the side too. So this is all interlinked now, and you can fully use it to create links dynamically using Netlify CMS. Okay, now that we have everything set up, it's time to push those changes to Netlify and actually work on it on the live side. So to do that, we do Netlify deploy -build -production or prod. Hit enter, and this will deploy our application as it is now to Netlify. So we have a one-to-one copy over at Netlify. Let's quickly build that. All right, this took just a bunch of seconds to finish, and now we can open up our live URL by clicking on this link here. And if I pull that over, that's now live and online on Netlify, and we can access it, we can share it with our friends. Now the problem is we can still not log in to Netlify CMS. We need to do one more step here, and that is setting up the identity on Netlify. So go ahead and open up your Netlify dashboard and open up this site. I have already opened it up here. So this is the site that we have just deployed. And then you want to go to site settings. And on site settings, you want to scroll down, and on the left-hand side, you want to find identity. And once you click on identity, you need to enable the identity services here. And once that is done, you have identity enabled. But there is two more things we need to do. First up, we need to scroll down. So there's also, just to mention it briefly, there is also an option to allow OAuth authentication or OAuth providers like GitHub or GitLab or Google or something like this. I haven't played around with that yet because I didn't need it. Yeah, you can look into that if you want to. So one important thing we need to do is on the registration preferences, we need to click on edit settings, and then we need to set it to invite only. Otherwise it's open for account creation and stuff like this. I haven't looked into it either, so I'm only using invite only for this case because I'm the only one using the site. Now this is done, and then there's one more important step if we scroll down all the way here until we find Git Gateway. Now this is important to enable because we need it so that the Netlify CMS, if you add a new link or that you delete a new link, Netlify CMS needs to be able to push these changes to your GitHub repository so that you're always up to date. Otherwise, If it wouldn't do that and you would keep working on your GitHub repository and push some changes, you might lose some links or some posts or some edits that you have done. So this is important to enable. Just click on Enable Git Gateway. If you haven't authenticated with GitHub yet, then it will direct you to the according site and just go through that. It automatically creates a GitHub API access token for you, and all of that should be fine now. The last thing we need to do to be able to log in is go back up here and go back to site overview, and then we need to find the identity settings to actually invite somebody or invite our email address to our site. And I've really spent some time searching. I didn't find it in the menu, and I don't know why. I really don't know why. If I go to site settings and we go to identity, then we are in settings and identity, and I couldn't find where the invite thing is. So if you guys find that, let me know. But the way to get there is just by opening your site dashboard, and then instead of overview, you put identity in here. And this opens up the identity page somehow where you can invite users. And I have no idea. It's not highlighted here on which kind of tab we are actually. So if you find where this button is, please let me know. I have no idea. How did I find it? But whatever. We click on invite users here, and I'm going to invite myself. So my own email address, if I'm able to type it here. And I'm sending it to me. And now I have the invite here, and it was sent, and I already hear my phone dinging next to me. So you can click in there and edit some settings, but I don't think it will not do anything in here because you didn't really define the role. I'm just giving it the admin role just to have things tidy. Click on save, but this doesn't change anything. I don't think you need to do that. So I'm gonna pull up my email now on the second screen here. Just give me 1 second, and I'm going to click on this activation link. So this is sending you a link that you have been invited, and then you click on accept invite. And once you click on accept invite, the site opens up. So your site opens up, and then you can define a password, and you click on sign up. And once you click on sign up, it should automatically, not automatically log you in, but let's do that. And then enter the password. And then it should be logging us in, and there we go. There we have our links and everything else. Now I click on save in here. Okay, and from here we should then be able to create new links on our live page. So if we click on new link, live link, then we say live link description, and just put another URL in here and click on publish. And then it takes a little longer than it does, obviously, on our development server. The live link, it will show up directly here. I don't think it will directly show up in here, because if you go back to your page and you go to the main page and somewhere here, you see that it's actually rebuilding the site. So always when you add a new link, it takes a bunch of seconds because it needs to run the build command again. So let's wait for that to finish. And it's published, and now the link should show up. If we refresh the page, there it is. There is the live link, and hence we have successfully integrated Netlify CMS to our LinkTree clone. Okay guys, we made it. We successfully created a LinkTree clone with Netlify CMS. I hope I was able to explain everything well enough so that you could follow along without any issues. Let me know how that went in the comments below, and also please let me know in the comments below how would you like to move forward with this tutorial series. Would you rather like one long piece of content and one longer video, or would you keep splitting them in multiple parts? Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I will do my best in the upcoming tutorials. Also, make sure to hit the subscribe button. This really helps me out. This keeps me motivated, as well as enables me to keep creating free tutorials for you guys. Also, hit the notification bell if you want to get notified about new videos. As you guys know, there are still like 90% or so of people who are watching my channel not subscribed. So if we get that number up, that would be fantastic. If you help me out with that, I would be more than happy. Alright guys, this concludes the tutorial. I hope you liked it. If you did, share it with your friends, and I hope to see you back in the next one. Until then.